What's going on, everybody? Brandon here with my boy Nedim for another installment of The Rear Naked Truth. What's up, Nedim?
We turned out here, man.
We turned.
That's TRNT.
Hashtag.
You already know.
I don't know what it is about every time we want to do another episode, Michigan just being an absolute bitch with the weather. Last time it was Snowmageddon,
Yeah.
and today driving in, I'm pretty sure it was Katrina out there.
Something like that. You know, your boy was in the Mustang with the tires that need to be replaced, and it's raining out here. And once again, we're out here risking life and limb to make it to Tap City Studios to record this session. But we're glad to do it. We're excited to do it. Life has been happening, man. We've been meaning to record this episode for a little bit now. I got the same amount of adrenaline I do when I'm about to deadlift, man. This is serious stuff right now.
No, yeah. Well, a lot. I mean, since the last episode we did, a lot's been going on. We had a couple fight cards. We got some exciting stuff on the horizon. So let's go ahead and get into it, man.
Absolutely. We've been given a good amount of material to talk about here in the meantime. Had a couple of, since we started this, there's been a couple of high value for the dollar type cards.
Yeah, you ain't had to pay no money.
Exactly, that there ain't no money being spent, but there's some good cards. There's some good fights being put on. The Motown Phenom, Kevin Lee, getting it done against Edson Barboza.
Man.
Shout out to Kevin Lee, Grand Rapids native.
Yeah.
Tap City Studios is conveniently and wonderfully located in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So definitely shout out to Kevin Lee. Hometown boy, grew up in Detroit, but we're not gonna fault him for that. That's okay. He came back to the hometown to wrestle, wrestled for GVSU. Obviously, some of that wrestling translated into his MMA career pretty well here, as we're about to talk about.
Wrestling saved his ass in that fight.
Absolutely.
My man was doing the Bambi. Stanky leg, whatever you want to call it. They made a meme out of my man.
Absolutely, but we'll get into that. Yeah. When he out Khabib against Edson Barboza.
Right.
Another fight on that card, a fan favorite, a Carlos Condit type fighter. Except this fight went the right way. Good prevailed against evil. Frankie Edgar got a win against Cub Swanson. Nothing against Cub Swanson really, but Frankie Edgar's I think a longtime favorite of anybody who's been, following MMA for a while. I remember before I was even really into the sport that much, I remember seeing Frankie Edgar on the True Life episode.
Yes.
The MTV True Life episode. So and that was my first kind of even introduction to viewing MMA. And he was still fighting in smaller casinos at that point. Some, smaller promotion and so on.
Yeah, that was a crazy fight. Dude, Cub didn't wrestle. He didn't want to wrestle with him.
Yeah.
He didn't really throw any kicks because he didn't want to get taken down, so.
Yeah, I mean, maybe overall looking at it, Cub wasn't as game as we've seen him in previous fights. Nevertheless, I'm glad our boy Frankie Edgar was able to pull out the win. I'm glad our hometown boy Kevin Lee was able to pull out, I'm going to say this with an asterisk, a dominant win against Edson Barboza.
There was one little blemish on that fight.
Obviously, we got to talk about that asterisk. We got to talk about that rather violent spinning kick that Edson Barboza threw that caught Kevin Lee just right. And then my man,
I don't know how he survived. Like, that was a crazy, just perfectly timed kick. And he was just wobbling all around, and then just muscle memory kicked in, shot for the legs. And Barboza, like, I don't know what he was thinking. Like, let him get up.
I'm not sure, because, Barboza, even though obviously this is his second fight that he's dropped in a row, in real similar ways, by the way. Edson Barboza is a great striker.
Yeah.
And I'm real surprised that when he threw that kick, when he saw it landed as well as it did, when he saw that Phenom was as wobbled as he was. He should have swarmed in instantly. And I'm really surprised that he didn't, and I'm pretty sure that cost him the fight, because that would have been a great opportunity to close out that fight.
Finish it, right.
But he didn't. He allowed Kevin Lee to continue on with his, wrestling dominant attack.
Mm-hmm. I heard Kevin Lee say after the fight that he, in the later rounds, started taking it easier on him because he felt bad how much he was beating the shit out of him. You know what I mean? Like, jeez. It
was, like I said, with an asterisk. It was a real one-sided fight. And like I kind of said in the intro, Kevin Lee almost out Khabib against Edson Barboza, because he used that same real, wrestling forward attack, but did it in a more bombastic way.
Right.
The suplexes just had way more force and momentum behind him.
He's strong.
He was
strong,
throwing Edson Barboza to the mat.
Yeah, and his striking looked good. Like, I was surprised he didn't wrestle a lot more. He was really comfortable on his feet until he got caught. And then once he got caught, you kind of see him slow down a little bit, and then he wanted to wrestle a little bit more. But very dominant performance for him with that slight little asterisk. And then, of course, he called out Khabib. He actually called it before he fought Barboza. He said he was going to beat him worse than Khabib. So I wonder if that was the game plan, to go in there and look like a more impressive Khabib.
And I'm sure that it was an attempt on Kevin Lee's part to sort of prove his caliber.
Mm-hmm.
To say, hey, this guy just lost to Khabib, who's considered to be, obviously there's going to be debate to it, just because of all the controversy that's swirling around, because Conor's out, because Tony's out, blah, 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 blah. But technically, Khabib is the top guy in that division.
Yeah.
So Kevin Lee basically went into that fight saying, all right, bet. So this is how I beat Barboza, but I just got to make it look even more impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to have worked, because, according to the news I'm reading through various outlets, it seems like it's a very high chance that the next fight for Kevin Lee is going to be Khabib.
I like that fight. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in that division. It's a stacked division. You got Conor dealing with his bullshit. We won't get into that again. You got Tony Ferguson out with a crazy knee surgery. I saw the pictures of that, and it's disgusting. But dude is mentally tough. I think Tony will be back, and I would love to see Tony and Khabib finally go down for the 5th time it's been now. But in the meantime, we have a great matchup with Khabib and Kevin Lee.
I'll take a hard pass on Khabib v. Tony Ferguson ever being booked again. I think that just needs to be one of those fights that, the one that got away.
The one that got away.
Know. It'll make a nice little segment for a Bleacher Report article one day or something like that. But
down the line,
to actually try to book that fight again, I mean, what is it, 4 times now?
Yeah, that was the 4th time. So it would be the 5th time booking them in. And yeah, I hear you. I mean, in the perfect world, that fight would have happened and we would have saw the results of it. But
I mean, in the perfect world, Anderson Silva in his prime versus GSP in his prime would have happened.
Right. There's so many fights.
In the perfect world, John Jones wouldn't be a steroid abusing cokehead.
Hey, it's funny you mentioned that, and I don't want to jump ahead too much, but anything else you wanted to add on Khabib and Kevin Lee and recapping that?
Yeah. So, as far as that fight night, I felt like those were the 2 real standout, contests.
Oh yeah.
On that card.
Another one I wanted to throw out. And I don't know if you saw anything about this. It was Aljamain Sterling. You probably didn't, because this is my area of expertise. These are 135ers. So Aljamain Sterling, who's a really good prospect. He's fought some good competition. He took on a new kind of up and coming star. He's from Wales, Brett Johns, and this dude was doing some crazy stuff. He kind of had that charisma about him. These foreign guys that have these cool accents always have that.
These guys from the UK,
they have some charisma.
Be trying to prove a point.
I love it.
I don't know.
But unfortunately, he did get stopped. I mean, Aljamain Sterling went out there and put on a dominant performance and called himself the best grappler in the division. and he called out Dominic Cruz. And I think that'd be a really cool fight. I mean, Dominic Cruz probably isn't going to get a title shot anytime soon, especially with Cody No Love taking on Dillashaw again for that rematch. So I think it's a good fight to make. Aljamain Sterling and Dominic Cruz. I know you probably won't have much to say on that, but I just wanted to give that. That was another fight that I really liked on that card.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Dominic Cruz and his completely monotone voice and everything like that against what sounds like a nice, exciting young guy.
Right.
So, should be a good fight. I mean, I don't think there's any denying that Dominic Cruz inside the cage is an animal.
Yeah.
He's kind of stumbled on a bad bout of luck with injuries and so on lately, but I don't think anybody can really deny the quality of Dominic Cruz as a fighter.
Yeah. He had he's got Uriah Faber. He's got one loss to him way back in the day. Yeah. And then Cody No Love. And I'm pretty sure that's it. He's been dominating people. So I you know, it's funny. I didn't really like Dominic Cruz back in the day because I was hardcore Team Alpha Male.
Hardcore Team Abercrombie and Fitch Hollister.
Yes. Even though I didn't wear all that, but yeah, I was hardcore TAM, and he was like the big rival. But throughout that rivalry and him fighting Uriah Faber, I think 2 more times and won both of them. You know, I actually started liking Dominic Cruz, and he's a very intelligent. Like, I love his commentating, even if he is monotone. He's really smart. He understands the game, and you know, his commentary is great. He knows exactly what needs to happen. So
well, I think you know, obviously, I particularly like to give a lot of shit to the UFC matchmakers, and I feel like it's all gone by the wayside as far as merit goes, and
for sure,
how they're determining fights and so on and so forth. But I feel like this is a fight that makes a lot of sense. You've got a genuine, you know, stud in the division in Dominic Cruz who's trying to make his way back in. You know, you've got an exciting young prospect in Aljamain Sterling, and I think it's a great fight. You know, it's you know, Dominic Cruz. Meanwhile, you know, over here you've got No Love and Dillashaw trying to, you know, sort out whatever is going to happen there. But you know, if Dominic Cruz can come into this fight, show that there's no rust, or he can shake the rust off real quick, and he can get a win against this kid, I think that would plant him back into the title picture pretty quickly, potentially.
He's right there. He's just outside of those two. He's top 3. Yeah. Another thing I like about Dominic Cruz, too, is his humility. Like, when he lost to Cody No Love, like, he seriously just couldn't put anything together against him. Like, that fight, Cody just put on a freaking clinic, man. He looked so damn good, so confident. He was cocky, but they were talking a lot of shit back and forth. So when
and I think that's where the No Love hype train came from. Is because he was able to dominate Dominic Cruz. Dominate Dominic Cruz so badly, and I think that's where the whole, you know, I think that's where No Love derived a lot of his legitimacy from. But then
shut your face.
TJ Dillashaw had something different to say.
I don't care. I'm still super pumped about that rematch, man. That's gonna be just crazy as hell. Yeah. And for the company, for the fans, whether you like your team No Love or team Dillashaw, No Love has to win this one, and then there has to be a rubber match. Like, that's massive, and especially for this weight class. I think you know, there needs to be a lot more excitement around these guys, because that division is equally as stacked, but for whatever reason they don't get the same kind of attention that the other divisions get.
Well, I mean, the reason for that is because these guys, you know, a hard wind blows and they end up in the next county and so on. So, you know, there's not going to be...
You better be careful, man. These little 135er listening, he's going to come up and be like, oh, okay, I'm blowing the wind, huh? Yeah. And he's going to pick you up and suplex your ass.
Yeah, that's true.
These dudes are beasts. There's all of them, even Mighty Mouse. Like, I met the dude in Detroit, and he's solid. Like, he's just a little muscle man. Like, I hate that I just said little, but... Dude, he's a little guy, you know, but they're freaks of nature is what they are. But enough about Dominic Cruz.
Enough about the 95 pounders and all that.
Yes. But no, the Edgar and Swanson fight. I mean, that was Cub just didn't use his freaking striking. He looked out of sorts.
He really did. Cub just didn't cub.
I was kind of disappointed. I was expecting it to be a lot more competitive, and it really wasn't. And even Edgar was kind of weird about the whole fight and the results. He's like, hey, sorry I didn't get it finished for you, you know, blah, blah. But it was just kind of a weird fight. But now it pops Edgar right back up in there, and he's calling, you know, he wants the winner of Holloway and T-City, which, dude, he deserves it, man. Dude has just been a company man. He's anytime he has a little setback like this, that's what I love about Edgar, is he hops right back in and just erases that last fight.
I agree. And then on the other side of it, Cub Swanson, this makes him 0 for 2 in his last 2 fights.
Mm-hmm. He got finished by
T-City.
Yep.
With a nice guillotine choke.
That was good.
Shout out to the jiu-jitsu players out there.
Yeah.
Always shout out to Fabricio Verdum. Always.
Is this going to be a running theme? This is going to be shout out Verdum show?
I mean,
that's all right. It'll be shout out Team Alpha Male then.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, moving right along.
Yeah. What's next? What's up?
You know, and I think I agree. You know, Frankie Edgar does probably deserve the winner of Holloway versus T-City.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same vein, I don't see him getting a win against either Holloway or T-City.
I don't. Sadly enough.
I think Edgar at this point, yeah, he's a loyal guy. He's able to get some wins. He's still a great fighter. But against the Max Holloway, you know, a bombastic, motivated Max Holloway, or against a T-City who is proving to be a super exciting prospect.
Well, and he hasn't fought. Has Edgar and Holloway fought? No, that's right. Edgar, who got injured? It was it Edgar that got injured when they were initially scheduled to fight? No, it was Holloway.
It was Holloway.
And then Holloway took this fight on short notice. I'm like, he wanted to fight Khabib, and I was like, wait, I thought he was injured from the Frankie Edgar bout. So yeah, they were scheduled. They never fought. I mean, for Edgar, obviously, it's probably going to look a lot better if Holloway wins, and then they can have that fight that they kind of lost. But
well, and the whole thing is too, Edgar has already lost to T-City.
Exactly, that's what I was going at. But on the flip side, if T-City does beat Holloway, then Holloway and Edgar would be the next kind of logical matchup. You know, I think in my opinion, I don't know.
Yep, and that's all. We're kind of starting already to talk about the next step after the Holloway T-City fight. But I think we got to give that fight its due hype and its due build up and its due excitement, because I'm moister than an oyster about that fight, man.
Oh my god,
that's gonna be a hell of a fight.
I just watched unrelated note. I just watched Den of Thieves. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't. No.
My man Max Holloway getting his act on in there.
Really?
Yeah, and Bisping was in it too. So it's cool to see these UFC fighters start kind of crossing over and doing the acting thing, and hopefully setting up their futures after getting their brains bashed around.
Right. You know, but yeah, I'm not sure where I was about to go with that.
I'm sorry,
but hey,
it's all good.
I guess Ronda Rousey paved the way for UFC fighters to to go into acting.
Seriously,
you know, shout out
and
Ronda
or
Rousey.
wrestling.
Yeah, and or whatever. Yeah, anything really.
Yeah.
Adidas, impossible is nothing.
There you go. So what we got next?
So next we've got this other, you know, little promotion out here that put on a card as well. We got this little promotion called Bellator.
What is that? Just kidding.
You know,
a lot of people don't know what it is.
I feel like a lot of people are asking that whole "what is that" question.
I was gonna say earlier, it was almost like a perfect segue, but I know we wanted to talk about Swanson and all that. Talking about those fights that never happen in a perfect world. Well, Bellator gave us just that. In a perfect world, we would have saw Fedor and Frank Mir fight in their primes. When Mir was the
in a
champ.
perfect world, we would have seen this fight about
20 years ago? I don't know.
A solid 6 or 8 years ago. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's I think, one niche that Bellator has been trying to fill is the fights that never were.
It's kind of dream matches.
Retirement home edition.
Exactly.
If you will. And if you won't, they will.
They will.
And they have, such as this fight between Fedor Emelianenko and Frank Mir.
Frank Mir. And, man, Mir came out aggressive. I was, it's always, everybody always says, and I'm reading like the Twitter and all the other fighters, and it's like, which Mir is going to show up? Because sometimes he comes and he's just an animal and he looks so good and he gets the win. And then other times he looks out of shape and winded. And then, but he came out, he hit Fedor with some nice shots and dropped him, got a little excited, and then kind of started backing up. And then Fedor was like, now it's my turn. Bat, couple ground shots, and it's done. In first round, you know what I mean? So now Fedor is moving on to the semifinals to fight, drumroll please, Chael Sonnen. What a fight. I'm so excited about that. I'm not at all.
I wish the viewers at home could see the sheer excitement on our faces.
It's
about that one.
The whole Grand Prix that they're putting on right now is, I'm sorry, it's kind of a sham. I mean, the best fighter you have in there is Ryan Bader. He's good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from Ryan Bader, but he couldn't, I think his last fight in the UFC was against Rashad Evans. When Rashad Evans was on that edge of like, he should call it quits, and he looked pretty good against him.
Rashad Evans still in the UFC though.
He is fighting the best. I mean, yeah. So it's a weird thing. And before we get off onto what Bellator is or what it's wanting to be, obviously Fedor versus Mir kind of brought back that debate: who is the greatest heavyweight of all time? Absolutely. Everybody says, there's a lot of people that say Fedor, and I'm not taking anything away from him. He's fought some good people. He fought in Pride back in the day and beat some good people back then. But I feel like a lot of the fighters that he fought back then still weren't in their prime.
Yeah, I feel like he had a lot of canned fights.
He did.
I think that's what contributed to his reputation and so on until...
God,
drum
again.
roll, please. Until a great Brazilian known as Vai Cavalo, the go horse, Fabricio Verdum,
oh man,
came along.
You're gonna turn me into a Verdum fan. By the end of this, that's minimally what's gonna happen from this, is you're gonna turn me into a damn Verdum fan.
So here comes this damn boomerang slinging Brazilian guy, and he just turned Fedor's world upside down.
Absolutely
with
rocked
a nice,
the world.
Triangle choke.
Yeah.
So.
And I remember back then, Alistair Overeem was calling Fedor like the greatest of all time, and he was, just riding dude hard. And then, he fought Verdum a couple times in Strikeforce, I think. Alistair did, and I think the first time Verdum got him, second time Overeem got him. But then he was just like, wow, maybe Fedor isn't the greatest. He had kind of that realization, like, this dude can be beat, and he got beat by a dude that I beat the shit out of. You know what I mean? So
right. And obviously Reem fought a version of Verdum that didn't really have a stand-up game yet at that point.
Exactly. No, I know. Yeah.
And so on and so forth.
It was different, but
and that that brings me to my next point. I think that if there's a case to be made that Fedor is the greatest heavyweight ever, I think there's an equal case to be made that my boy Fabricio Verdum is the greatest heavyweight ever.
Listen,
because to be the best, you have to beat the best.
But
at one point, Fabricio Verdum did beat the best.
Listen, okay, valid point, sir. I'll raise you though. Stipe, dude, he is fighting in the premier organization for MMA, UFC. He is fighting in the most dangerous weight class known to man. That's why they're the baddest man on the planet when they win the belt. and he has defended that belt more than anyone in UFC history. How that dude, granted, yes, he's still active. We have yet to see what he does from here, but at this point, he's already proven to be a top, at least a top consideration for greatest of all time.
Absolutely. He has done successfully what no man in the heavyweight division has achieved already at this point. And the guy is still
going
in his prime.
Yeah. I think he's 34, maybe.
Yeah,
he's
33, 34, right there in his, MMA prime, especially for a heavyweight.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's real exciting to see where Stipe goes next. And we'll get into that in some later episodes, because obviously there's
some fights on the horizon.
Some fights on the horizon and so on and so forth.
But who else do you put in that conversation? So you got Fedor, okay. Verdum, sure. Stipe. Outside of that, who are we looking at? Put you on the spot.
I think there's a little bit of a case to be made for Tzigano, Junior Dos Santos.
Okay.
Obviously, he did hold the belt at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And the fights he won were some pretty dominant striking performances.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what you need to do to be the baddest man on the planet is to hit some other equally huge guys with some huge shots.
And you and I were talking about this the other night, and you kind of blew me off a little bit. But if you're gonna include Dos Santos, you gotta throw in Kane then, because they both listen. Junior Dos Santos, I think he won the belt, and then he might have defended it once. I'm trying to remember, and then he fought Kane again and lost it. Kane won the belt, defended it once, lost it. Like, people couldn't even string together like 2 consecutive defenses. So I mean, if you're gonna throw him in there, I know Kane's been riddled with injuries and hasn't looked that great as of late, especially against Verdum in Mexico City. But there was a time when he was just a wrecking ball, just smashing dudes.
Can we take a second to appreciate, just a second to appreciate, how Fabricio Verdum dominated Kane in all facets of life surrounding that event? Fabricio Verdum, a Brazilian, came to Mexico and was Mr. Home Team against a Mexican. He was speaking better Spanish than the Mexican.
Well, come on now.
He gave his post-fight interview with Joe Rogan in Spanish, whereas Kane, I'm not a native Spanish speaker, but I heard the accent, fam. That was accented Spanish. That was white boy Spanish.
Listen, yes, okay, so Kane is assimilated, okay. But Verdum, I mean, Spanish and Portuguese, they're not that close, but they're similar enough to where if Portuguese is your native tongue and you speak a little bit of Spanish, you're probably going to sound more authentic, or however you want to hear a Spanish accent.
Shout out Fabricio Verdum. So, on the subject though of Cain Velasquez, probably some people are going to be accusing me of just not giving Cain his due, or whatever the case may be. But I think that the whole case for Cain, or all of the people saying, Cain was great, Cain was one of the greatest, so on and so forth, are more mourning the lost potential of Cain Velasquez, or what could have been, versus what he actually did do.
Sure.
Because what he actually did do was get injured a whole ton.
Right. I think what we're doing though now is we're just mentioning the honorable mentions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think you could put, obviously,
they're up there top 5, top 10.
Listen, if you let DC tell the story,
right,
Cain Velasquez is the greatest thing to ever happen to the heavyweight division ever, past, present, or future.
Right.
But obviously he's his teammate. If you let Luke Rockhold tell it, Cain Velasquez is the greatest there ever was, and I think he can be in that conversation. But I think, partially through no fault of his own, there's too many points against him. There's too much inactivity. I mean, when's the last time Cain Velasquez was in the octagon?
Was it the Mexico City? I think that was his last fight.
I think that was the last fight.
That was a grip ago.
That was a couple grips ago.
Yeah.
That was...
Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, but I think, honestly, for me, right now, if we're having the GOAT conversation, heavyweight, I go with Stipe.
Stipe Miocic.
Yeah. Shout out to Stipe Miocic, and looking forward to that fight. But
shout out to Stipe, the Balkan boy.
The Balkan boy.
You know, with the roots in Croatia and all that.
Mm-hmm.
He actually has been there. I read about it.
Yeah.
So, definitely, big shout out to, you know, the home region kid.
The homeland.
Yeah.
Another exciting fight, or I guess only other one you really could care about, if you're me or Nedim, was Dylan Danis. Dylan Danis. There we go. Dylan Danis. Connor's boy. Trains out of SBG, Ireland, and dude's got some legitsu.
Some super legitsu. Some innovative.
Very innovative. He was like a snake on that dude's leg.
Because he straight up brought grappling tournament level technicality jiu-jitsu
for sure
to the MMA ring.
Yeah.
That was the way he wrapped that guy up like an anaconda and got a toe hold. A toe hold of all things. I don't think I've ever seen anybody win by a toe hold in MMA, period. And that actually might officially be the first time it has happened.
Thank God we didn't call our show the toe hold truth.
Yeah.
There is that Tommy toe hold guy that's out there, and he's probably having a field day with that. Like, oh shit! Finally, shout out to Dylan Danis for getting the toe hold in.
I mean, shout out to Dylan Danis regardless.
For sure.
Me as a not so avid jiu-jitsu player, was super impressed by that. By the way he wrapped that guy up. By the way he grabbed that toe hold. Like I said, that was, that was the type of jiu-jitsu that you typically only see at the IBJJF tournaments.
Seriously.
And
yeah, I agree. And I don't want to get on a hype train about this dude too much, but you look at him. He's got the style. He's got the charisma. Obviously, everybody's calling him a mini Connor, but he's just got that confidence about him. And he said, I'm going to show people jiu-jitsu. And, dude, he showcased it perfectly in that fight.
I'm super excited about that. There's a couple different fighters out there right now who are, really high-level, exciting jiu-jitsu players who are coming to MMA. There's Dylan Danis here in Bellator, and I really have no doubt that sooner or later he'll come to the UFC as well.
I think that's his goal.
I don't think that Bellator is going to be able to hang on to him, and I'm pretty excited for that day. But there is also Mackenzie Dern, who is 2-0 in the UFC at this point. And then her next fight, I believe, is already booked. Let me do some quick research here.
Mackenzie Dern?
Yeah, Mackenzie Dern.
I think she's got one. I think she's on the July... what was that, 226? I think she's on that card. Or no, she's on the 224. She's literally coming up. She's in Rio with Amanda Nunes and Raquel Pennington. She's on that card.
Okay, yep. She is...
Is that May 12th?
It is, it's the UFC 224, May 12th, facing Amanda Cooper.
Yeah, I didn't know who she was facing, but I knew she was on that same card. So, she's an exciting one.
Real exciting kid. Really pretty girl.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that she has a very bright future ahead of her as far as MMA goes. She's another one of those Conor McGregor-esque in that she already has the plan there to where she does not plan to be in MMA forever.
Mm-hmm.
So for a little bit of background, Mackenzie Dern is essentially at the ripe old age of 25. She's younger than me.
Okay.
She had ascended the absolute peak of jiu-jitsu competition. She was the number 1 ranked female jiu-jitsu player in the world.
Nice.
Her dad, Wellington Megaton Diaz, another absolute legend in the Brazilian jiu-jitsu game. So shout out to them. So she basically dominated that arena as much as it possibly could be dominated. Now she's made her transition to MMA. She's 2-0 so far, going into her 3rd fight. I believe she's a favorite in that fight as well. But she has a plan. She does not plan to be in MMA forever. Her dad didn't really even support her going into MMA in the first place, just because of the fact that she is a really pretty girl.
She's gonna have some messed up ears.
Yeah. Well, she was gonna have the messed up ears from
rolling
anyways,
and all that,
from rolling. But you just don't get injured in the same way in jiu-jitsu. You don't get your face bashed in.
True. Or
you don't
elbows and knees.
You don't take a shin bone to the chin bone, and so on and so forth. So there's a plan there for her to kind of hopefully ascend to the top of her division in MMA, and then
I mean, I saw the last fight. I think you were over for that last fight, and she looked good. Her striking is a little wobbly. You know what I mean? It's not as clean and crisp. So if she works on that, that's the one thing I say, and I think I'll give your boy credit for it, Verdum. If you have one aspect of the game, mastered, if you're jiu-jitsu, you got to have something else to go with it. Usually jiu-jitsu are good at wrestling or just kind of some kind of flings or takedowns and throws. But if their striking isn't there.
Usually jiu-jitsu players also train judo. And that's how they get their takedowns hip throws and so on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that can actually be, some of those judo throws in the context of an MMA fight can be really exciting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, look at Ronda. Ronda was judo. She was a judo gold,
right.
Medalist, and she was freaking throwing bitches, you know?
Absolutely.
That was awesome when she was doing that. But, yeah, I think Mackenzie Dern, she's one to watch for sure. And she's exciting jiu-jitsu, like you mentioned. So, and I think Dylan Danis, I don't know, maybe you hear first, I don't know, but I think he will make his way over into the UFC, and I think he very well could be a top contender.
Yeah, I would definitely tend to agree. I can't wait for the day that he makes that transition.
Yeah, that'll be sweet.
Unless, Bellator has been known to poach a fighter or two away from the UFC here and there. Rory McDonald, when he went over to Bellator, I was pretty shocked.
Yeah, for sure. Gegard
Mousasi as well, because unfortunately, I guess for a guy like me who was kind of a fan of Gegard while he was coming up, he faltered a little bit in the UFC, but he was still a pretty high level, fighter when Bellator poached him.
Yeah. So
that was a big enough deal as well. But Rory McDonald was really the shock signing by Bellator. I feel like Rory McDonald left a lot on the table at UFC. I think he left a lot of unfinished business.
Yeah.
I think he could have done a lot in the UFC, and there's nothing to say that he won't come back. But I think with Rory, it was just a question of sometimes the UFC just wants to sun these fighters.
Yeah.
They just do not want to give them their due pay and their due respect.
Well, it's the Reebok deal too, man. Like you look at Bellator and they still let the fighters get their own sponsors. That's huge. That was a big thing. In the Reebok deal, if you're not a top 10 fighter, you're not getting paid as good.
Oh, you're not getting paid peanuts.
Yeah. So these people, that aren't top 10, they're obviously everybody's goal is to be the champion, but if you can't get there, then you fell back on the sponsors, and when that's not there, then you're taking money away from my livelihood. So it's probably a big financial decision for some of these fighters that we're shocked by, that are like, hey, fuck it, I'm gonna try it out over here. And there's a lot of fighters that have gone over there and done great in Bellator. So and then there's other fighters that haven't done so hot. So I think Bellator needs. I would love to sit in on their strategy meetings.
Exactly. I think Bellator needs to come up with a direction.
Right. What do you want to be?
They need to figure out what their niche is. Because right now they're doing, the fights that never were. They're doing, the freak show fights.
Yeah.
You had Kimbo Slice against Dada 5 trillion.
5 trillion, yeah.
Rest in peace, Kimbo Slice.
Yeah. It's just weird. I mean,
didn't Dada die?
No. He had complications from that fight, but he didn't die. But no, yeah, I agree. Bellator is just they're trying to do too much, and they have exciting fighters like Michael Chandler. I think he's up on his contract, and he's entertaining offers. So that would be cool to see him come over to the UFC and see how he fares, because he says he beats Khabib 10 out of 10 times. So there's a lot of there's a good handful of fighters in Bellator that are good.
I think there's a lot of fighters that claim that they would beat Khabib 10 out of 10 times. And
yeah.
I feel like some of them could have a good crack at him because, like we've discussed in the past, there's some gaping holes there in Khabib's game that he's either going to fill or somebody's going to come along and rock his world.
Yeah.
Be that Kevin Lee, be that Max Holloway, be that T-City, whoever it may be that Conor McGregor. There's this Irish kid still kind of lurking in the background trying to get his turds in a herd. But
I saw, I've watched a couple Michael Chandler fights. He fought Benson Henderson. Dude is ridiculously aggressive. Like, his wrestling is amazing. His striking is really good. He's gotten beat a couple times. He had a little rivalry with, I forget the dude's name, but they went back and forth, and he lost a couple times.
Must not have been much of a rivalry.
Yeah, well, I'm not that into Bellator, so.
Oh, there's that.
There's that.
I'm pretty sure there's people at Bellator that aren't that into
Bellator. Get your shit together.
Get your shit together. I mean, at least a roadmap. Can I offer you a subscription to Google Maps? You don't even need a subscription.
Well, even MapQuest. Is that still around? Give them MapQuest.
Bing Maps? I don't know, but you guys need to get it some kind of direction. Do you want to even, hey, what's to say? Because, like I said, with the way the UFC treats their fighters, there's nothing to say that Bellator couldn't try to be a legitimate direct competitor for the highest level of talent to the UFC. Bellator could literally try to poach the best fighters from the UFC, and all they would have to do nowadays, 8 times out of 10, is offer these fighters a more decent contract.
Right.
Because in the UFC, unless you're Conor McGregor or a couple of other guys, it really seems like you're not getting much of a fair shake nowadays.
Right.
And Bellator could capitalize on that. They could capitalize on any number of opportunities to poach, disgruntled fighters from the UFC and be a legitimate competitor.
Well, I think that's how they've been able to poach as many as they have. I mean, Scott Coker came out and just went right at Dana White and the UFC and was like, hey, he kind of Suge Knighted it. He's like, hey, if you don't want your promoter all in the videos, like he really went after Dana.
But at the same time, if that's what you want to do, cut the crap, man.
Yeah.
Cut the bullshit. Cut the dot out 3 million
Get your
thousand
fights
versus
together.
Kimbo Slice. Cut the Chael Sonnen versus anybody. Let that man do his commentating and move on with his life.
Right.
Cut the who did Rampage just fight in Bellator?
Chael Sonnen.
Was it Sonnen?
Yeah, and he lost. Yeah, he was in the heavyweight Grand Prix.
Leave the fights that never were to be the fights that never were.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave them for Bleacher Report.
Yeah.
Stop with the sideshow, the freak show, if you want to be
taken seriously.
To be taken seriously, to be trying to take the share of top level MMA competition from the UFC.
Yeah.
You got to stop with the bullshit. You got to get your turds in a herd. You got to get your ducks in a row. You got to get your poops in a group. And like I said, with the way the UFC treats their fighters, it wouldn't even be that hard.
Right. Yeah. Anyways, enough with Bellator.
We've spent way too much time on Bellator.
They took up a lot of time. Well, we're passionate about this, You gotta come
we are
correct.
definitely passionate about this fight game.
Yeah.
But seems like Bellator ain't passionate. They don't know what they're passionate about. Anyways, really, truly enough about these bullshit guys at Bellator.
So we wanted to
for
talk
now, unless they get their shit together.
Yes.
I mean, unless they sit there, make up a list of good-ass UFC fighters whose contracts are about to come up for renewal and shit, slide in them DMs and be like, I'll give you more money. That's what they need to do. Listen, Scott Coker, if a day ever comes along that you're listening, and that day will come.
Yeah.
TRNT, the Rear Naked Truth, will be heard.
Yeah.
Scott Coker, here's your plan. Slide in them DMs, offer that better money, and you can be the next Strike Force. You can be the next Pride.
No, don't strike. You could be the next UFC. Because right now, that's pretty much what there is. Everything
it's the
outside
only game
of that.
in town.
Yeah.
So, there's that. Scott Coker, holla at your boy, Nedim, Brandon Aguirre. We'll get you straight, man. We won't even... Our consulting services aren't even that expensive.
Not for a nominal fee.
For a nominal fee. We'll get your shit together. Poop Group LLC. Moving right along.
No, so we in the first episode we didn't really get to address JJ and Thug Rose.
Right.
So.
And I'm kind of glad that we didn't, because I think in the meantime that picture has cleared up a little bit, and
for
we
sure
kind of know what comes next. But I first want to talk about that from a big picture perspective. Shout out to Rose. That's 2 times in a row she's beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And I am going to hand the Can't Handle the Truth award to Joanna. Because, right after the fight, she was all, oh, that was BS. Look at the statistics. I landed more strikes. Blah-de-da-de-da, this and that. I won that fight.
Just being a sore loser.
Just completely being a sore loser, being in denial. Listen, Joanna, dusza moja. Denial is not just a river in Egypt. Alright? You lost the first fight because you got knocked the fuck out. You lost the second fight because...
got outpointed on the cards.
And now, you want to sit here and you want to be... Don't tarnish your legacy that way. You had a dominant run.
Oh, yeah.
You had a very dominant run. Don't ruin
Joe
that
Rogan.
legacy.
Joe Rogan was calling her the greatest fighter of all time.
Yeah. There were plenty of people echoing that same sentiment. I know my fellow Chrome Dome Joe is, given to over-exaggerating things a little bit sometimes. And so on and so forth.
That might have been one of them. But
shout out to Joe Rogan out here, bow hunting elk and all that.
Just living the dream.
Living his best life.
No, Joanna, she...
so she
didn't take that
for
well.
now, she can hold this Can't Handle the Truth award. She's still got future 115-pound champion in the bio section of her IG page. She needs to take that shit off.
Update that girl.
She needs to eat a slice of humble pie. All right, if you
Cue
want
the Kendrick Lamar song too.
Sit down,
little bitch.
Exactly. No disrespect.
No disrespect. Just singing the songs to the word.
Yeah.
The words to the song. I mean,
whatever the case may be, but so, and now we're kind of clear on what happens next for Joanna. She's got her fight against Tisha Torres.
Yeah.
In Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
On July 28th, I believe.
Yes.
And that should be an interesting fight.
That should be. We'll see how she bounces back from back-to-back losses to the champ. Like if she truly does feel like she is a future 115, maybe she's leaving it up because she knows she's gonna get the belt back. But she's got to be more humble in defeat, man. Like, just take it to the chin, move it on.
She had the whole future 115 champ before the second Rose fight.
Yeah.
And then she lost again. And she ain't take that shit off. Imagine, because we live in a world where social media is the truth, essentially. I mean, besides the truth you're lining to right now. This is the rear naked absolute truth.
Yes.
But Turnt. But you've got, however many followers you've got on Instagram. Everybody who's a fan of yours probably follows you. And you've got this little blurb about how you're the future 115-pound champ. And then you lose a second fight. And you keep that shit there. Imagine if you lose this next fight with future 115-pound champ on your IG page. Imagine what level of tarnishment to your legacy you're doing.
Well, I mean, I could kind of see her point. I could see her point. Because look at someone like Anthony Pettis, who was just at one point like the shining star for the lightweight division. And he won the belt, and he got the Wheaties box cover and, just the golden boy. And then he lost it, and he's just on this terrible skid. Every post from my man is, I'm going to get that belt back. I'm going to get that belt back. That's the mindset these guys have to have.
And now, though, now that the smoke has cleared from UFC 223, you start reading these articles and pretty reliable sources saying basically the only reason that the Anthony Pettis versus Khabib fight didn't go through is, air quotes, quote unquote, the UFC wasn't offering Anthony Pettis enough money to take on Khabib. And it's like, listen, man, you have been on a serious downslope ever since you lost that title. Imagine what it would have done for you. Not even necessarily if you would have fought Khabib and won, but if you would have put up a good show against Khabib, that could have been invaluable towards kicking Anthony Pettis' career back in the right direction.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, so the reason we brought JJ and Thug Rose back up is because we wanted to talk about these former champs, that are still in the prime of their career, but they lose to whichever fighter, and then it's just like there's a chink in their armor, and then they unfortunately kind of turn to trash, right? I mean, look at Jose Aldo. He lost twice to Max Holloway, and he didn't look good in the second fight with him.
No.
And then now he's facing Jeremy Stevens coming up, and I'm kind of nervous for him. You know what I mean? A lot of people are. Joanna now. Anthony Pettis, all these former
Anderson Silva,
he didn't look the
let
same.
it go far enough to where he started having to use PEDs and he got caught.
Yeah, he got popped twice too.
And I know this next one is going to be controversial. I didn't even talk about this one with you earlier when we were talking about this, but to a certain extent, GSP.
Oh, yeah.
In his fight against Hendricks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that decision went GSP's way.
I knew, that last round of that fight, I was like, dude, GSP lost. Hendricks is the new champ, and even Hendricks kind of felt it, and he kind of let go of the gas a little bit and just kind of rode it out.
But maybe wisely so, after that fight, GSP decides to ride off into the sunset.
Yeah. Do some gymnastics for a while.
Maybe he just felt it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what he said, because I still remember that post-fight interview.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what he said to Joe Rogan. Hey, I feel like I just got ran over by a Mack truck.
It was big rig. I
have never been hit with these type of shots. Maybe this is the end of the line for me.
Yeah. I kind of wish he would have stopped and never came back. I know he's still a young guy, but I'm sure he's got, Dana said it, he's got plenty enough money to live comfortably for the rest of his life. But he is a competitor. He had to come back.
And he's a smart, well put together, stable guy. GSP could do any number of things.
For sure.
Outside of MMA. And then he came back for a second, beat Michael Bisping, got everybody moister than an oyster, thinking about what could be next. Blah-de-da-de-da. Well, haha, joke's on you, MMA fans. Ain't shit next. Nope. There goes GSP again, riding off into the motherfucking sunset.
He should be done now. I don't think he should come back. Because people are going to it's kind of tarnished now. Even though he came back and won, people are gonna be like, oh, what? He's gonna come back for one fight and then leave again.
For me, it was an absolute trash thing to do to the fans.
Yeah.
Sure. You know what? You do have to look after your own health. Your fans aren't gonna pay your bills when you're out here with Parkinson's and blah da da da. But by the same token, if that was your plan, man, you never should have came back.
Right.
I think what he did was perfect after the Hendricks fight.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that it was a questionable decision. Hendricks probably won the fight.
But you can't blame him for that.
Fair.
Yeah,
you can't blame
him.
GSP. He saw that he was just at the end of the line and he left. And he should have left it at that.
Yep. Perfect.
But
it would have been good.
But no. He decides to come back. He decides to fight Bisping. And then he decides to be biggest douche in the world. And
so, yeah, I mean, we brought that up because, I mean, I never want to be that kind of person that's involved in the fight game that's commenting from the outside in. And I don't train anything, never train anything, even you training jiu-jitsu every now and then, it's not really fair for us to bash these fighters and you know what I mean? But it is something kind of weird going on that once they get beat, these champs, they're never really the same.
They're never the same.
Obviously, it's a mental thing. It's got to be a mental thing, when you...
And the primest example in the world, Ronda Rousey.
Yeah. Oh, man, she looked like a completely different fighter. She didn't look like a fighter after she lost.
Well, and then, later you see these interviews that she's talking about. She basically locked herself away and cried for 2 years.
Yeah.
She thought about suicide.
Yeah.
And, I am not going to sit here and make light of people considering suicide. I'm not going to make light of any of that. God forbid, because those are all very serious issues.
Very serious.
But I think it speaks to somebody who just has no... and even later she gave even more interviews where she said basically she was brought up to never even consider losing.
Yeah.
As a concept, as something that could possibly happen.
Mm-hmm.
So then when it did,
it's earth-shattering.
It's world-ending.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case with a lot of these champs that end up on these horrible downslopes. Is I think to a certain extent, to truly be the best, it does have to be beyond a shadow of a doubt in your own mind that you can't be beat.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you have to be open to the concept that one day
it's gonna happen.
Somebody could come along.
Oh yeah.
And rock your world, and you have to be able to rebound from that. I think I don't know who. It's a famous quote. For some reason, I'm brain farting right now. I can't think of who said it, but it's not about how many times you get knocked down.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how many times you get back up again, family.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you have these greats who are dominant for years, but as soon as they fall for the first time, there's no getting back up.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfathomable to me. If you put in all this effort and you were able to get to this zenith that you got to, the fact that you can't at all build yourself back up again just doesn't make sense to me. Not on Ronda Rousey's part, not on Jose Aldo's part, not on, Anderson Silva to a certain extent. Maybe he was just past his prime, or whatever the case may be. So I understand that one a little bit.
I think a good one, and not to be like a total fanboy and bring him into every conversation, but honestly, like, I was worried about what was going to happen with Conor McGregor when it wasn't for a title fight, but when he got choked out, when he got hit with the
shout out our Diaz brother, Stockton Cali, with the rear naked choke.
Sunk in the rear naked choke on Conor McGregor. And I mean, Conor was like the golden boy. He was the champ at that time. Not of that division, obviously, but man, that was like, whoa, this dude just got beat. And, in dominant fashion, got choked out. So I was like, how is he going to rebound?
Conor McGregor did rebound.
He rebounded great. And that's the thing. It's mindset. And like I said, I don't want to take anything away from these fighters, but some of them, they can train and be the best fighter in the world. But if they're not training their mind, and if they're not in that mindset that, hey, I can be beat, and it very well could happen. It's inevitable at some point that someone's going to catch me. The easier it is to get that kind of blemish on your record already, especially these undefeated fighters. Like, I can't imagine the pressure these dudes go through and these women go through, that they have an undefeated record and they're going into every fight trying to keep that 0 there. You know what I mean? So,
well, and I think that's where we're going with the story arc as far as Joanna goes. So how is she going to rebound? To me, the fact that she even is running around talking about how she won the fight against Rose,
and saying the other girls in the division need to bow down to the queen,
and so on and so forth. It just doesn't bode well for me.
She is the bully of that division, though.
She is, but I don't think that mindset is going to get somebody back to the top. I think to get back to the top, you have to be able to recognize that you did get knocked off the top.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Joanna, the other chick, Dusha Moya, I feel like she feels like she still hasn't been knocked off that top spot.
Now explain the sentiment behind Dusha Moya for our non-Bosnian, Balkan, Serbo-Croatian speaking listeners.
So, in the Slavic languages,
yes,
most of them, Dusha Moja roughly translates to my love or my dear.
My dear.
Parents say it to their kids. People say it to their significant others.
People say it to their dogs. You say it to Nike, don't lie. Dusha Moja.
That's neither here nor there. But, and then sometimes you use it in a little bit of a sarcastic way.
Yes.
And I'll leave it for people to, I guess, perceive in what way I'm using it in this instance.
Yes.
But Joanna, please, baby girl,
Dusha Moja,
you cannot be telling the other women in the division that they need to bow down, because
you need to bow down to Thug Rose.
You just got made to bow down twice by the same fighter.
Yes. So
how about, for a second, you rip off that future 115 champ blurb off your IG. You stop talking about how you beat Rose, because you didn't. I'm sorry. You just focus on a little bit of rest, then a lot of training camp,
and then
Tisha Torres, and then let's see.
Prove it
because
with your actions.
To me, if I were the matchmaker, she doesn't get the title fight again even after she beats Torres.
No.
And I don't think she will.
No, she won't. Yeah, we were talking about that before, and I probably would agree with you. It would make more sense. I think Jessica Andrade is probably going to get the next shot, and she's a freaking savage. And Claudia Gadelha, she's going to be fighting at the card we're going to in June, and I'm excited for that fight she has, because dude, those two girls, they're respectively number 3 and 4. So either of those is going to be a really exciting matchup for Thug Rose.
For me, the way I see it all playing out, because the fact that Andrade is not booked to a fight right now, she's the next.
Yeah.
She's next for Rose. And then whoever wins the fight at UFC 225 is number 1 contender.
Yeah.
For women's strawweight.
For sure. They'd be the next after Jessica Andrade and Thug Rose fight. Yeah, I agree. I think that makes the most sense, and hopefully it pans out that way, because, man, that would be some really good fights. Because I know, I think Claudia and Andrade, they've both fought JJ already, and they lost. So it's just nice to see a different matchup. So Thug Rose taking on either of those two girls, it would be crazy. It would be really crazy. So, yeah. So moving on.
I think that gives us a pretty clear picture of what's going on at the top of women's strawweight.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily include Joanna for the next few fights here. So
No,
I think she needs
she's
to buckle down,
Yeah.
get that
Work her way
through
back
her
up.
thick Eastern European skull. I got one of those too, so I don't necessarily mean that in an insulting way. And just move it along.
Move it along. Well, let's you and I move it along.
Speaking of moving it along.
So, just wanted a quick shout out the fact Anthony Pettis and Michael Chiesa finally got rebooked. That was supposed to take place in Brooklyn, but Chiesa got some shards to the face.
Shout out to the Dolly.
The Dolly. We ain't talking about the llama.
I'm not talking about Dolly Parton.
Nope, that one either. So, dude, that's it got rebooked for 226, which is in July with Stipe and DC headlining. Man, that's shaping up to be an amazing card. We won't talk about it right now because we'll have plenty to talk about in the future on that one. So, yeah, a lot of exciting fights being announced. So I'm really looking forward to what's coming up in the UFC and just the fight game period.
It's really shaping up to be a good year for the UFC. After a little bit of a slump there. It's
Yeah.
really shaping up well. As much as I hate to say it, I think the little drama that Conor caused is helping.
Yeah. Some weird way it's helping.
In some weird way, it's helping.
It's crazy how just a few weeks of time that goes by, the big difference it can make in the landscape of things. So I agree. I think it's a really exciting time to be a fight fan. Just real quick, want to shout out the fact when you're listening, if you think Nedim or I are complete idiots, which we won't argue much with you there, but these are all opinions, right? This is what it's about. So if you feel differently and you're passionate about it, comment, shoot us an email, do what you got to do. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. Check us out on iTunes, on Google Play. We're on Stitcher for all my podcast people. So follow us at Rear Naked Truth on Twitter. We got The Rear Naked Truth on Instagram. Check us out. We'll do some live tweets of the cards. We're heading to the card in June, so we'll be posting some videos, pictures, I'm sure of that.
Soon enough on YouTube as well.
Absolutely.
But that's more a question of us wanting to come correct. We don't want to put no low quality videos on YouTube.
For sure.
So once we do come to that platform, it will be correct. It will be 4K. You will be able to see my glaring lack of hair and so on.
And all
and
your
so
wonderful
forth.
pores. I'm looking at them right now. Your pores are very open. You have healthy skin. You should not be ashamed.
So
you have a good head for a bald dude. We've talked about this.
Right.
You got a good head to be bald. Some people should not be bald.
So all of you will be able to view that in HD, as exciting as that sounds.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a question of absolutely we want to be on YouTube. The infrastructure just isn't there where we'd like it to be. We don't want to half-ass it. We don't want to half-bake it. We don't want to be in the year 2018 putting up videos in 720p or iPhone videos.
We don't like half-assing. We like whole-assing.
We like when that rear naked choke gets locked in nice and deep. So we gonna hit y'all with that deep rear naked choke when we come to YouTube. The channel name will probably be pretty intuitive.
Yeah.
It'll probably be Rear Naked Truth or The Rear Naked Truth or something
Or
like
Turnt.
Turnt. Hashtag Turnt.
Hashtag Ned instead.
Ned and Steady, getting you MMA ready.
For sure.
So, I think that pretty well wraps up what we wanted to say.
Talked about a lot, man.
Wraps up our side of the conversation, but like Brandon said, check out our pages.
Yeah.
Leave us some comments. Let's have some two-sided conversation. Let's have some conversation with you as the listeners. Suggest topics. Tell us we're idiots. Tell us you disagree.
Tell us you hate us. Tell us you love us.
Tell us the sound of my voice makes you moister than an oyster.
Or that it makes you want to vomit. Whatever it is.
Which is the more likely case.
No, you have a good voice too, man.
But yeah, we definitely encourage, because this is all about community. This is all about opinions. Because, at the end of the day, at 11:59 and 49 seconds p.m., we're not the ones getting in the cage.
No.
We're just the ones talking shit about it. And we invite you
to
do that with us, to join us.
Join us in talking shit.
Absolutely.
It's fun.
And we'll talk shit back.
Yeah.
Just don't get offended.
No.
Don't be flaming us in the comments, and then if I, shout out your Twitter handle and tell you you're an idiot, don't be mad. Because you can tell me I'm an idiot too.
Yeah.
My girlfriend does it all the time.
My wife tells me, and I'm an idiot all the time too. So we have something else in common. But yeah, definitely check us out at Rear Naked Truth on Twitter. The Rear Naked Choke. We like those too. But the Rear Naked Truth on Instagram. Check us out on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And tune in for the next show.
Going forward, look forward to TRNT Tuesdays.
TRNT Tuesdays.
Hashtag TRNT Tuesdays. We'll be dropping new content every Tuesday as, the Michigan weather smooths out.
Jeez.
And as life smooths out.
Word.
As we roll into spring and summer. Hashtag TRNT Tuesdays. There will be special extenuating circumstances. We will be attending UFC 225, and we'll get into that more in later episodes. But we've mentioned it a bit up to this point. That will definitely carry special episodes with it, possibly live streams.
Hell yeah.
Whatever the case may be by that point. So there will be some exciting content for you guys. Due to the fact that we are able to be there on site and see everything play by play.
Super excited for it. Stay tuned, people, and never forget, this is the Rear Naked Truth.